The exact information that makes up any lease begins with what the parties want out of the agreement. Two competent adults have the right to develop a lease agreement in almost any form they want, as long as it doesn't violate the law or public policy. But regardless of the exact purpose or language of a lease, there are certain parts and information that will appear in the vast majority of them. It also bears noting that not all leases must be in writing, though it's always strongly recommended. But leases lasting a year or longer are legally required to be in writing. So let's take a look at some of the common sections in a lease contract. These are usually referred to as clauses. Some obvious information would be contained in almost any form of lease, and generally includes names and addresses of involved parties, precise location and description of the leased property, price of the lease as well as due dates and deadlines, and the starting date and ending date of the lease. Single, double, and triple net leases also cover who will pay for maintenance, taxes, and insurance. So, what are some of the more common clauses? These might be things like a disputes clause to help determine where and how any issues that arise may be resolved. This clause allows the possibility of settling disputes without judicial intervention, although outside arbitration or judicial methods may still be options. An escape clause is another. This provides both parties a set amount of time, often 72 hours, to rescind a contract without penalty. It also could render a contract void if certain events do or do not take place. Here's an example. Say a local retailer leased space from an owner in anticipation of providing services to a major manufacturing company moving into the area, and the manufacturer delays the move for a year. This would mean the lessee or retailer wouldn't need the property after all. That contingency could be built into an agreement through an escape clause. An exclusivity clause can be important to smaller businesses. Major companies often will be the anchor store for a mall or shopping center, so they won't face major competition. But a smaller business, like a shoe store or nail salon, might want to request this clause to ensure they won't have any competition in the mall, or at least if there is, the competition will not be nearby. An expenses clause can be crucial in that it determines who pays for certain things between the owner and the lessee. Or an expense stop might be used so an owner will only pay up to a certain amount established by that stop. With a mitigation clause, if a lessee can't fulfill the term of the lease and has to break the agreement, they still owe the balance of the lease. However, the owner is obliged to make reasonable efforts to replace the client and relieve the lessee of some of their burden. While there are many more types of clauses, let's finish by looking at the tenancy and subleasing or subletting clause. Unlike residential leases, where subleasing is generally prohibited, in commercial leasing it's a viable method for subsidizing purchase of adequate space. The perfect size may be tough to find, so a little larger space with additional space to sublease and maybe later to expand into could be a bonus in a commercial leasing agreement.